Parshas Yisro, Tafshin Pei Aleph. The Nesivos Shalom refers to this Shabbos, the Shabbos of Parshas Yisro, many times. And Nesivos Shalom refers to this as the Shabbos Kabbalas HaTorah. That's the name for this Shabbos. And it's a Shabbos, says in Nesivos Shalom, that every time that we come around to Parshas Yisro, it provides us with a special, auspicious time to once again be Mekabel the Torah. This week, it's in the air. We're feeling like we're at Har Sinai. We're feeling like we're receiving the Torah once again. It's the Shabbos of Kabbalas HaTorah. And if you look at the S.S.S. Hadibros in the Parsha, every word of the S.S.S. Hadibros really teaches us so much. It teaches us so many different lessons that we today really need to learn. And the Rambam and other Rishonim tell us that the first words of the S.S.S. Hadibros, the words of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, those first words, they are the Yesod of Emunah for every person. Those words, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, tells us what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, that I am your God. And every Jew needs to believe that and really internalize that. And it's the Yesod of the entire Torah, says the Rambam, other Rishonim, these words right here in this week's Parsha, the Yesod of the entire Torah. And we know if it's called the Yesod of the entire Torah, then it must be coming to teach us something extremely, extremely vital. So Nesivos Shalom tells us that it teaches us that, of course, the Yesod of believing in Hashem is something that we have to learn from these words, as we said. First, there's the plain lesson. A person must believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in addition to that, it teaches us something more. It teaches us that not only must a person believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you need to also believe in the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael. What we as Klal Yisrael are to Hashem. You need to believe in Hashem, but along with that, and coming along with that, it's a very important lesson. You have to know who you are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how important you are to Hashem, and how important we are as a people, as Klal Yisrael, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That we are the chosen nation. And if someone, says in Nesivos Shalom, does not believe in that, then that too is a deficiency in Emunah. Deficiency in your Emunah. And just like one believes and understands that Hashem is Elokeinu, that Hashem is our God, so too you must believe that Anachnu Yisrael Amai, that we are the nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And both of these lessons are included in those first words of the S.S.S. Hadibros. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that was said, we know that was one of the two Dibros that were said by HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Hashem is saying, Anochi Hashem. The first lesson is that I am Hashem and you need to believe in me. I am your God, says Hashem. But then there's the next word, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. That I am your God, the God of Klal Yisrael. That you are the ones that I chose. You are the ones that I chose as my nation. And when Hashem says that He chose us, He's telling us that you are different. You're not like the other nations. You are different. You need to act differently. You are B'ni B'chayri Yisrael, my firstborn Klal Yisrael, that loving term that Hashem gave to us when we left Mitzrayim. And you know, we've spoken recently, I find that the past couple of weeks, we've really spoken, the theme of the last few weeks this year, for somehow it turned out that in every single parsha we pulled out a lesson of Emunah. The theme has been Emunah, and not just Emunah, but working on the clarity of Emunah. Everybody knows that Emunah is out there somewhere around you in midair. Like we say today, Emunah is out in the clouds. It's out there. We know that there's such a thing as Emunah, but we've been working on together as a group in our shir, having more of a clarity in Emunah. And this week we're focusing in what it means to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not just to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but to believe what our relationship is with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which we just went through, and we just spoke about, we just read about in the Torah, at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, there was the highest level of Emunah. Everybody saw right in front of their eyes. It was easy to have Emunah at that point. People saw things then which had never been and which will never be again. The Emunah was so clear, it was as if they saw it right in front of their eyes. And the Pasuk tells us, Atem re'isem, in this week's Parsha, Asher osisi le'mitzrayim. It uses a lashon of re'isem, a lashon of seeing. You saw with your eyes. There's nothing like something, somebody could tell you a story, you could hear a rumor, you could hear that something happened, but if you see something, that's the most clarity. And the Torah tells us, Atem re'isem asher osisi le'mitzrayim. You saw with your own eyes a vision, a very, very high quality of Emunah. And the Pasuk, at the beginning of Aseres Hadibros, if we continue the pasuk that we've been speaking about, Anochi Hashem Elekecha, I am Hashem your God, which we said, and the Torah tells us, Asher Hoitzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Hashem is saying, I am your God that took you out of Mitzrayim. Now, if you were going to say who God is, I would venture to say that the way that God would want to introduce himself would be that Hashem would say, I am your God who created the world. Asher Eitzisich Me'eretz Mitzrayim was something that happened thousands of years ago. Yes, there was a clarity, but I would venture to say that Hashem should have probably said, Asher Barasi Es Ha'olam, I created the world. But we see specifically, Hashem said, Asher Hoitzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. And the Nesivos Shalom says that it comes to tell us that your emunah in Hashem needs to be with that clarity. I'm the same Hashem today that was then. Asher Eitzicho Me'eretz Mitzrayim. When you saw that there's no one but me, when there's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one, and He does everything. With that clarity, that's a clarity that you have to stick with forever. When the clarity of Emunah, that they saw everything in front of their eyes. And the Torah's Avos in Parshas Vayetze brings from the Saba Kadishim Islanim, Zechus Yogan Aleinu, and he tells us a very, very important point. And he says like this: every Yid has to know that there are two types. We talk about hashgacha pratis, that Hashem is running things, is hashgacha from Hashem. There are two types of hashgacha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's the hashgacha, which is regular hashgacha, which we all know about, that Hashem sets things in motion every year on Rosh Hashanah. And whatever Hashem says, you're going to earn this amount on Rosh Hashanah, it's not going to be more, it's not going to be less, this is what you're going to get. Hashem says whatever is going to happen that year, Rosh Hashanah. That's called the hashgacha, and Hashem carries out the hashgacha of Rosh Hashanah. Then there is another level of hashgacha. The next level of hashgacha is something that everything that is being run and controlled only by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, the first type of hashgacha which we mentioned, Hashem decides on Rosh Hashanah, and all his messengers and all his angels, malachim and everything, they carry out. But there's a next level of hashgacha where it is controlled solely by HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, only by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he himself is mashpia chesed on Klal Yisrael, above and around the regular seder of the world. And that too, says in the Nesivos Shalom, is a chelek of emunah for every single Jew. Every Yid has to have that part of Emunah, where you need to understand that there's what is decided on Rosh Hashanah, and then there is a level above that where HaKadosh Baruch Hu could take it in His own hands. That even something that was decided on Rosh Hashanah, it's not just that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Boirei Umanhig L'chol HaBaruim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates and controls everything that's going on in the entire world, but that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power to take the reins and go above the Seder and above the Zman for Klal Yisrael. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu at times, like He did by Yitzias Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did it. We saw that at Mitzrayim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we say in the Haggadah of Pesach, that Hashem said, Ani v'loi malach. That if I was doing things with my regular messengers, then it wouldn't be enough. That would be just regular hashgacha. Hashem said, Ani v'loi malach, Ani v'loi saraf, Ani v'loi sholiach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power to override that which was already decided, take the reins by Himself, and change. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do all of that above the regular hashgacha. So the Torah tells us, Anochi Hashem Alekecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who said it Himself by the S.S.S. Anochi Hashem Alekecha, Asher Oitzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, for a reason. It says that I took you out of Mitzrayim, and not I am HaKadosh Baruch Hu who created the world, which would seem the more appropriate way to introduce a God. HaKadosh Baruch Hu specifically said, Asher Oitzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, which is a lesson you have to remember forever, to tell us that believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu means trying to attain Emunah on that level. The level of Emunah that we had when we left Mitzrayim, where everything was right in front of our eyes. And we understood that we have to believe that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu Himself. Klal Yisrael saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvoidoi u'ba'atzmoi took them out of Mitzrayim. No messengers, He didn't send somebody else to do it. So the Torah, the S.S.S, which we always say, that besides the fact that this Shabbos is Kabbalas HaTorah, not just to be makabel, the mitzvahs of the Torah once again, but also to understand the first words of the S.S.S begin with Emunah. To internalize the lesson of Emunah and say that we need to develop a little bit more clarity in our Emunah. We need to understand that we want to try to get to an Emunah where we look around that Hashgacha Pratis, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking it by Himself, and things which would make no sense normally in the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing things, and we saw it more than ever this year. We saw in our own lifetime, right in front of our eyes, that things which were unheard of, things which never happened before, things which seemingly would be something of either science fiction or things that nobody has ever seen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings out in front of us, in front of our eyes, this new level of Emunah. And it's our job to try to see it as clear as they saw it in Mitzrayim. Anochi Hashem Alekecha, Asher Oitzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. As we discussed the last few weeks, different levels of Emunah, different levels of clarity in Emunah. This week, Emunah is about Hashgacha Pratis, where whatever happens in the world, Hashem is the one that can take control and can do. And when we daven, and when we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for different things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power to say, I know I decided this on Rosh Hashanah, but right now I could change. Right now, for Klal Yisrael, we go above and beyond. For Klal Yisrael has a special relationship, and that's how we started this year. Just want to end off by reminding you, we started this year by saying not only does a person have to believe Anochi Hashem, but he has to believe Elokecha. Hashem said, I'm your God. I chose you, Klal Yisrael, as my chosen nation. I chose you, Klal Yisrael. What a warm and confident idea that is for us to go into Shabbos with, for us to know in this week, Parshas Yisro, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling me, you are B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. I am Elokecha. I am your God more than any other nation. Let's take that out of this week's Parsha and raise our level of Emunah.